the whole system changed, the whole playing field changed then in around about 1868 with the Transport Act, which was passed in the English Parliament. And this allowed English companies then to get into Southern Ireland and to get ports and terminals set up. So we opened in 1873, and the reason being that it became a lifeline between Greenore, between Ireland and the British Isles, to be quite honest. The London North Western Railway Company then moved forward, and initially the Dundalk, Newry and Greenore Railway line was to be formed, but unfortunately the Newry end couldn't come up with the funding, so the Dundalk Greenore Railway was the first one to start, and it opened up in 1873. In fact, the whole village of Greenore opened up on the 30th of April 1873. So in 1876 then, to mark the opening of it, the number 4 train was the Newry, was added to the fleet. Number 5 was Carneyford, and number 6 was Holyhead. So now we had 6 trains based in Greenore, running between Dundalk, Newry and Greenore. Railways then, it worked very well for a while. Greenore was very busy. In the 1930s, 1920s and 30s, you had 6 trains per day going to from Greenore to Dundalk, and also 6 going to Greenore to Omeath, or Greenore through Omeath to Newry, sorry. But then the railways and transport went into decline, and so things started to slow down a bit. So in the 1930s then, DNGR took over the line. But when we talk about DNGR taking over, they actually used their own trains on the line, but the London North Western Railway still owned the infrastructure. They still owned the railway lines, they still owned the Port of Greenore, they still owned the golf club, they still owned everything in Greenore. All the people in Greenore were living in railway houses because everybody in Greenore was involved with the railway. Here's a picture of the Greenore train. Actually, it's a painting from a photograph of the Greenore train crossing the Ashmore Bridge. That would be familiar to you without the bridge itself, because here's where the Greenway starts presently. Further to my left, you'll see the actual clock, and that's the clock the original clock out of Omeath station. You can see Omeath written on the back of it. So that's the original Dundalk, Newry and Greenore Railway clock. But underneath on the cellar here, we have the Dundalk, Newry, Greenore layout in a miniature form, where the trains are, you can come along, or collectors and enthusiasts come along and run the trains on the railway track. So we have Quay Street Station and the Dundalk, Newry, Greenore line run the full length of the cellar underneath, which you have witnessed yourself. So after 78 years in existence, the railway came to close, and had been through wars and everything else, through the First World War and the Second World War, and still managed to keep going, but unfortunately it wasn't making enough money. The story goes on the night coming through anyway, they stopped it in all the townlands and the villages along the way. They stopped because it was a kind of a joyous occasion that they were coming. This was the last train, but it hadn't actually sunk in that there was going to be no more trains, obviously, and no more work. While people might have found some joy in that, from further afield, in Greenore was absolutely devastated. But on this particular evening, the Dundalk train got back first and didn't know where the Newry train had got to. And what happened was, when they left Edward Street, they landed down in Omeath, and they stopped the train in Omeath station, and they got off the driver, the whole lot, and went up to the nearest pub. And they stopped in Carneyford, and the train was left sitting in the station in Carneyford, and they all went up to the pubs in Carneyford. So anyway, the Dundalk train got in, should have been in after the Newry train, the Dundalk train got in an hour before the Newry train because of all the festivities along the lane. As the lights went out in Greenore that night, Station Master John Fitzpatrick read out a letter from Senator Margaret Pearse, sister of Patrick Pearse. I am thinking of you and your fellow workers on your little Greenore Railway. I am sorry for you all, it is a big break, but God will look after you in the future. End of story.